Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Wretched, Decay, out October 17th on Metal Blade Records. The album has 12 tracks, 65 minutes in length, and this is the band's 5th full-length studio album. They are an American death metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, I think there are two main points that need to be addressed. First and foremost, I honestly felt like the album overextended itself. 12 songs, 65 minutes, for an album that has this sort of sound, this sort of heaviness, even though there's a lot of ebbs and flows, even though there's a lot of versatility on this album, you still feel like you're losing a little bit of the record's shape, of the record's idea, of the record's direction when you start to go over the 1 hour mark. So that to me hurt the overall playability of the album more so than the album itself, because the quality is there, but when you try to go and find a way to navigate this record, finding 65 minutes to really enjoy that journey without pauses, without interruptions, becomes quite cumbersome. So that's one aspect that this album has that I felt like if it was a little bit shorter, the overall playability of the record would definitely increase. The other aspect of the design of this album that I thought was really interesting is that they have Behind the Glass, a 16-minute instrumental track, extremely atmospheric, extremely melodic, really breaking the patterns of the record. And not only they have a song like this, they place the song in the middle third, at the bottom, middle third bottom of the record. You normally don't see in modern days songs of these characteristics coming in that spot in the album. I can understand why it's there. It's not a song that you necessarily want at the beginning of the record, and it's definitely not a song that you want to close off the album, because I don't think the listener would give this song its time if you're putting it right at the end as the album finishes. So you have to find the sweet spot for it. And they went with a very old school approach, which is to put an instrumental track in that bottom third, kind of breaking that bottom third and still allowing for some heaviness and some intensity and some aggression to follow that track. So almost creating a midway point, but not quite at the midway of the album itself as far as the number of tracks are concerned. So it's an interesting approach that brings in old school elements into the forefront, and it allows the album to definitely have a little bit more life, and allows the album to extend itself and find a way to better carry the listener through in terms of where that song is placed and what it does in terms of breaking the dynamics of the two halves, the half that came before and the half that comes after. So these two aspects of the design of the record are definitely two things that stand out immediately when you listen to the album, and I think one helps the other, but it doesn't do enough to really allow the overall record to feel more concise. Now, as far as the sound is concerned, this is predominantly a death metal sounding record through and through, but the band was not afraid to introduce other elements, technical elements, progressive elements, atmospheric elements. Obviously, bringing these elements into the forefront of their sound allows for versatility to exist, and it allows the songs to not feel redundant. It's not like you're listening to this record and you feel like every single song follows a very similar pattern in design and pattern in sound. Having the ability to bring these different influences allows them to paint much different pictures using the same kind of brushes. And I think that's an important aspect, specifically when you think about the overall length of the record itself. You have to try to minimize repetition. You have to try to create some sort of fluidity throughout the record so that the sound doesn't really jolt the listener on a track-by-track basis, but still infuse enough uniquenesses that the songs have their unique fingerprint, and that makes them stand out on their own. And this record definitely has that. It has great production behind it. One of the elements of the production on this album that I thought was really interesting is how the bass sound is incorporated in the overall record. It's not an album where the bass sound completely jumps at you. It's not like you're listening to it and you hear this really cool bass lick or like this nice little bass groove coming in. It's not that style of a record, but if you're listening and you're paying attention, the bass is really predominant. It's just that it's built into the overall tapestry of sound that the record has, so it becomes a lot harder to define it or to see it but once you notice it, it really makes the album feel a little bit more fuller. It definitely gives the sound a little bit more of a robust nature to it, and that is a great element to have. It allows the guitars on this record to offer that sense of versatility that the album has. The guitar sound throughout the entire record is phenomenal. I really like the variety that exists on this album. The melodic side of the record is really interesting because the melodic side of the album, from a guitar standpoint, brings in a lot of darkness, brings in this almost somber atmosphere and somber vibe. And when the guitars become a little bit more clear and a little bit more stripped down, you still get that same dark essence to it. It's just a darkness that has beauty associated with it. So the overall execution, the overall guitar sound, it's definitely one of the main pillars of this album, and it's definitely the main pillar as far as the sound is concerned. You still have the drums playing an important role on the record. They really help shape the heaviness and size of the tracks. This is an album that overall, every single song feels very robust, very well put together with a lot of substance, and you have to thank the drums and the drum sound for that, because it really helps define what that substance is and what that thickness of sound is without creating any density. This is not a dense sounding album. For as heavy as it becomes at times, it's an album that has a lot of clarity in it, and when it has clarity and it has heaviness together, you really create a more approachable, a more easier to digest heaviness throughout the entire record. You infuse some of those elements of progressiveness, some of those elements of technicality, some of that atmosphere, and this is a death metal album that becomes very approachable, very easy to listen to, and it allows you to dive a little bit deeper in it, and it really allows you to go all the way to the finish line because of that easiness that it puts forward. Now, once you get into the vocals are the other pillar of this record. I have no doubt about it. Great vocal performance. I really enjoyed a lot of the layers that they used, the backing vocals, but the layered in the vocals, helping give them some size at times to really match the size of the sound of the songs. And the vocals always feel very powerful, very connected, very emotional to a certain degree, and I think you notice that a little bit more in the more melodic moments, and definitely going to notice a little bit more in the songs that allow the veil to be removed a little bit deeper. So it's a great vocal performance. I enjoy the layers a lot. I thought that was a really cool nuance that gave more texture to the overall vocal performance, and an important element for an album like this. An album that needed to be, in my humble opinion, more concise. It needed to be more straight to the point. I think it would have made the overall experience a lot more impactful, but when you look at it on a song-by-song basis, every single song on this record has a lot of merit and really offers something great and interesting to the album. But overall, thinking about the overall journey, the overall record, the album really needed to be a little bit more concise, a little bit more compact in what it offers. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with A Royal Body. Groovy, heavy, powerful sounding song. The guitars are really the life of this track, offering a lot of different nuances, offering drive, offering grooviness, offering heaviness, really pushing the song at every single turn. And the vocals add movement to the movement that already exists in the sound, making the track very dynamic from top to bottom, which I think is a very important aspect. Those amazing layers that I talked about in the vocals are definitely noticeable on this track, and they help with the size and they help with the heaviness of the vocal performance to truly match the same dynamics that you have from a soundscape standpoint. The melodic guitar sound on this track becomes really hooky, really catchy, and it doesn't hide it, it just hints is the perfect word. It hints at that overall darkness that this album carries. It carries it really well, it hides it really well, but in those more melodic moments, it comes to the surface a little bit easier. This is a great song with great guitar sound and an amazing vocal performance. Then you have a track like The Crimson Sky. Definitely a darker song, a song that feels more methodic in its movement, not as fast, not as robust, a little bit more calculated in terms of how it progresses, and it allows some of the emotion that exists within the lyrics, within the track itself, to bubble to the surface a little bit better. What it loses in momentum, it gains in size, and that allows also the heaviness of the track to become better defined. Heaviness and darkness on this song really holding hands together. Once again, the melodic guitar sound helps expose all of these hidden elements really well. Last but definitely not least, you got Lights. This is a super important track from what it offers and where it is in the track listing. This song follows that 16-minute instrumental track Behind the Glass. So having a song that slingshots you back to where you were before that more middle, mellow, atmospheric part of the record, it becomes important because it allows to connect the pieces, considering how much of a break, how much of a bridge existed in between. So it almost jolts you back to life, it jolts you back to the listening experience, and it makes you feel awakened to what the album had before and now it has after. So this song, sound-wise, feels very similar with the overall dynamic that the record has. It falls in line with those overall dynamics. It has a great bass sound, and it offers that sense of continuity coming out of that dull experience that a song like Behind the Glass offers. Key track from how it sounds, how it feels, but more so where it is on that track list. This is it, Wretched with Decay, once again on October 17th on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, guys.